Our cabinet has refuted claims that the Department of Health is investigating itself in the digital vibes saga. The acting minister in the presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, says the law enforcement agencies are in charge of the investigations. Ntshavheni has declined to comment on growing calls for the health minister, Dr William Kizer, to resign. Kizer admitted that the 150 million rand communications contract, which was awarded to Digital Vibes by his department, was irregular.
The Department of Health is not investigating itself. The investigations that are underway are done by law enforcement agencies, and therefore there is no possibility of interference on the investigations. The minister yesterday clarified his own positions in terms of what he is implicated or not implicated on the matter, and the investigative report will then give a picture not only to South Africans but to the department and to the president on the matter. It's not the position of cabinet to express views on ongoing investigations. But furthermore, it's this government's commitment to fight corruption at whatever level it happens, it takes place, and whenever it takes place. And we have said to law enforcement agencies, you must do your work without fear, without favor, without being intimidated. And we would like to give them space to do that work and allow them to conclude their investigations and take the appropriate decisions in terms of prosecution or non-prosecution thereof. And therefore, whether the minister steps aside or does not step aside is not a decision that cabinet will express itself on. It's the discussion that must take place between the minister and the president to the extent of the matter. But any area or any signs or allegations of corruptions are viewed in a very dim light by cabinet and the president. And on that matter, that's why the investigations are taking place. Thank you.
Now, staying with that story, I'm joined now by UDM's leader, Dr Olomisa, who is among those who's calling on Health Minister Dr William Kizer to step down while investigations are being carried out. Dr Olomisa, good to have you with us once again on the daytime update. We heard there Dr William Kizer saying that he did not benefit from this contract, yet you are still of the view that he has to step down.
Yes, Mr. Kizer has admitted that there were wrong things in this transaction. And unfortunately for him, the people who are being fingered are those who work closely with him when he was Treasurer General at the ANC and later on joined the department. It looked as spokespersons and so on, or private secretaries. So we feel that firstly, we do not have a contract with Minister Kizer or any minister for that matter. If the balance of probabilities is sufficient enough, we should be asking him to leave the office. President Cyril Ramaphosa has presided on a number of cases where some people, like Masuku, were charged or for having not applied or monitored the department's activities. The same principle must be applied in this Minister of Health. We can no longer allow the monies which were supposed to have built vaccination centers, and those monies are paid to the former or the colleagues or close associates of Minister Kizer. So as I said, he cannot take us to any court or CCMA. We don't have a contract with a political head of a department. If the scandal has occurred in that department, he must take accountability. He must be accountable and take responsibility. By going and home. We don't even want to suspend it. It's high time that we show that we fight this corruption.
Are you saying then, Mr. Olomisa, that as a matter of integrity and as a point of integrity, that Dr. Kizer should voluntarily step aside without necessarily being pressured to do so?
I don't even want to use this term step aside because it confuses the whole debate. Here we're talking about a scandal which the minister has also accepted that it has taken place under his nose. So for that failure, he must go, especially that this scandal is perpetuated by the people who are working with him. So we don't have time to waste and investigate and draw a line. He must leave, and then the investigation by SIU and any other institution can follow.
And at what level do you believe that this needs to happen? We heard there the acting minister in the presidency saying that the president is the one that must deal with this with Dr. Kizer. Is this an issue for the president, or is this an issue for the African National Congress?
She is 120% correct. The ministers are appointed by the president and they are also dismissed by the president. So the ball is in President Cyril Ramaphosa's court. And there are so many of the ministers who have been implicated. But as usual, I doubt if he will take an action. So it's not a responsibility of the ANC to fire a minister. It's for the president. That's what Constitution says.
And you are calling on the president to fire him or to suspend him?
He must fire him. There are many competent ministers who can fill that vacancy. As I said, we have no contract with William Kizer. He is not going to take anybody to the CCMA. Firing him would send a strong signal that corruption by ministers are not going to be tolerated, or by their associates will not be tolerated.
In the interest of fairness, quote unquote, using that word, if an investigation still needs to take place, would a suspension not be requisite action as opposed to firing? Because if that investigation comes out and indeed it is found to be blameless, whatever the outcome is, then that suspension is lifted. But once one has been fired, that's pretty final.
My sister, we are not dealing with a civil servant here. If the balance of probabilities is sufficient enough, that minister must go. Please.
Let's move on then, Mr. Olomisa, to another occurrence. You've come out in support of the scrapping of the eTolls. Talk to us about that. We did hear, though, that obviously this has to come from the Minister of Transport. It's got to come higher up. But we did hear from SAFM earlier on today, the MEC for Transport talking about the scrapping, something that you are in support of.
Well, I'm not going to be responsible for the confusion of the current government system. This federal quasi system was agreed upon in 1994. But you can see that once anyone is behind the mic, then they tend to contradict themselves. Having said that, I was in Parliament when we approved the guarantees for 2010 World Cup, where the World Cup team and the government of South Africa agreed that they would upgrade the roads around the cities which were going to host the World Cup in South Africa. During that period, not a single day did I hear any presentation to Parliament which talked about the tolls, eTolls rather. But when the money was utilized to fix the roads, in PE, building stadiums in Bloemfontein, KZN, Gauteng, all of a sudden, after the World Cup, we noticed that there were some hyenas who wanted to tell us that they are going to put eTolls on the roads which were upgraded by the South African government as per the agreement. Why did they want to only use these eTolls in Gauteng only, other than that they saw a lucrative business for themselves? So I would challenge anyone from it's a pity the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, was not there in 2010. He was not the president of the country, but anyone from Zuma downwards, they must tell us or produce a paper which said, give us this guarantee, Parliament, then the taxpayers will repay using the eTolls.
So who have been the beneficiaries, or who were supposed to be the beneficiaries of the eTolls, those hyenas that you speak of?
I think if you go and do some search, you will check that the companies, there was a company from Australia, if I'm not mistaken, Austria, partnered with some South African companies. But you can go and do some search for yourself. Those are the people who benefited.
All right, we'll leave it at that for this afternoon. That's the UDM leader, Mr. Bantu Holomisa, on the eTolls, but also his call for President Cyril Ramaphosa to fire Minister Kizer.